Welcome to another video from Flash Jazz Cat, and as you can see, if you're familiar with the Atari line of computers, what we have on the desk today is an Atari 130XE, and I have to say it's in rather nice condition. Keyboard looking very nice. This is an NTSC machine sent over from, I believe, if I remember correctly, Canada. Now it's been sent over with some problems. Apparently it's got VBXE in it. There's some video issues. So I've popped the screws out at the bottom, so let's have a look inside. Right, so let's pop the lid off and see what we've got. Right, sorry, I just had to take a moment to compose myself there. I was briefed on this machine, but you know, you forget things in the heat of the moment. So let's continue. So take the keyboard out, which I think has had a new Mylar put in it, which looks nice enough, so that's fine. So what have we actually got in here, other than the repeaters at the top there? Well, we've got a VBXE here. Very nice electrician tape. Now I was forewarned that there were problems with this machine. There's something rattling around inside of it. I don't know what it is. I should probably take the board out. Now as you can see, there's a bit of an interesting, I'll turn it around, slightly unusual connector here, and that's the video connector. And how many connections does that one have? I think that's a 15-pin D-sub connector. I've no idea why you would choose to use that for the video jack. And normally the thing to do, well, the thing I like to do is to take the RF modulator out and put the video jack there. And as you know, if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you'll know that I usually use a DIN 13, as you'd find on the Atari ST. But that's fine. I mean, maybe the customer wanted to keep composite video or something. It's a reasonable thing, because you lose composite video if you take the modulator out. But I mean, then again, you could have put the video connector up there, I suppose. So let's give it a try. So apparently there's some problems with the video on this machine. Yeah, the VBXE video specifically. So let's plug this SCART cable in. Now it's not often you'll see an American or Canadian machine that's got a SCART connector, because SCART was a European thing, of course. Alright, so let's switch on and see what we get. Oh, so there's repeaters booting, but that does not look like VBXE RGB video to me. That, what on earth? I can barely see a thing. What? Let's give a closer look at this. So I've seen something like this before, and what it usually is that the monitor isn't actually being put into RGB mode, RGB control wire that comes from the VBXE itself, which should put the monitor into RGB mode. Otherwise it will just display a composite image, and that looks kind of like a composite image. So I mean, the 65C816 operating system is obviously trying to boot here, but that is a very, very dark display indeed. So I don't know what's going on there, so I think we better check the wiring on the VBXE. Alright, so I'll turn the machine off. I'll take the SCART cable out the back, and then we can verify the wiring. In fact, I'll take this connector off because I want to see what's actually going on inside of this SCART connector. It's a little bit easier if you can see it from the solder side, or I find it anyway. So yes, so what we got, let's get the multimeter out and see what we've got. See if we've got RGB control. Okay, so RGB control is on, well, I suppose you would call it pin 2 on the RGB header on the VBXE, and that should go to, I'll just check. So RGB control is here, and the second pin along, and we've got the video cable plugged in. So what we should see is this one here. Yeah, we're in continuity mode. That should be connected to RGB control. So if you have a look on Atharic's website, you'll see the he provides a SCART wiring plan for VBXE. And you'll see that RGB control goes straight to pin 16 on the SCART connector. Now on this cable we've got two resistors and a jumper between pin 16, pin 8 and pin 16. Or jumper together, they've got resistors on them. But that doesn't even go to this pin. Right, so it looks like the guess that the monitor wasn't being put into RGB mode was right. I'm not getting continuity because of these resistors, am I? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop that off. I'm going to see where this blue wire goes, and that will become my RGB control. So get that, find out where it ends up on here. So it was connected. It is that one. It was the resistors that were stopping me from getting a beep. That was a bit of a stupid mistake. So it is going to the right place, but those resistors need to come off. So let's take them off. You see, I didn't use my brain there because I should have realised that I should have put the meter in resistance mode instead of diode mode. But you don't need resistors on the RGB control signal. Right, so we'll plug this back into the monitor. Let's see if we get a picture. Oh, well, that's better. Oh, good. Perfect. Perfect RGB signal from VBXE. Right, so why the hell were those resistors in line with the RGB control? Alright, it's the next morning. I had a word with the owner of this machine, and it just goes to show that illogical design decisions aren't always what they seem, and sometimes there's very good reasons things are done the way they are. So firstly, this 15-pin D-sub connector, there's a reason that's there, and the reason is that the person from whom the current owner bought this machine had attached something that used a DB15 in this spot on the board. So apparently there was a DB15 shaped hole already there when he sent it in to the person in America who did the work to get the VBXE and the repeaters installed. So it made sense to use a DB15, and this also prompted the decision to use this particular SCART cable. And I think this is a SCART cable for an Apple IIGS monitor. Right, so specifically it's this monitor here, or something along those lines. Ignore the banana. So it's the one that was suggested to me, which is the E2 M6014 test bench monitor, and this uses the same pinout as the connector on the back of the Atari here. So here's the pinout, and on the Atari on pin 8, which is an unused pin here, we've got the RGB control signal for SCART, and the RGB control signal puts the SCART enabled display into RGB mode. Now if that signal isn't present, you get composite video. Now that's exactly what I was getting, composite video on the LG display, and apparently the owner said that through his RetroTink, where he was using the SCART cable, he was getting wavy lines and such, just a really bad display. Now there is a SCART cable available for the 2GS. So what I think they probably do on the Apple is they use this unused pin for the RGB control signal in case you want to plug a SCART display into the back. So the wiring plan on the Atari is completely consistent with that approach, and I think the reason that they've gone with this approach is because there's a readily available SCART cable for the Apple IIGS, and I'm going to assume that that's what this cable is, and that it uses pin 8 for RGB control to put the display into RGB mode. So that explains that. Now if we have a look here, we've got the pinout, a slightly better pinout diagram for the 2GS for the monitor connector, and if we look here, there's pin 8. So we're looking at the connector the other way on here. So pin 8's on the left, so that's the one they're using for RGB control, and the reason they're using that is because it puts out 12 volts on it. VBXE doesn't like a current limiting resistor on the RGB control line. So that explains why it wouldn't work on my TV and it wouldn't work properly on the RetroTink. When I took that resistor out, it works perfectly well. Now, if we look at the rest of the pin out here, we have, what do we have here? We have audio output not used. So I was looking for a spare pin to put audio out on the SCART connector, because at the moment the user's got no sound whatsoever when he uses the RetroTink. I think he was taking audio from the legacy monitor jack, but I mean, using SCART, you might as well get the audio out on it. So that's what I'd like to provide for him. And we've got an audio out pin on pin 11. So, and that's obviously, I'm assuming that's not going to be grounded at the monitor end, it's just going to be left unused, unconnected. So I think what we can do here is we can put pokey audio out, mono audio out onto pin 11 of the monitor connector on the Atari, which isn't used, it's not connected to anything at the moment. We'll split that, inside the SCART cable, we'll route that to both the left and right channels, and then he'll get audio out on SCART. It's going to be perfect. What could possibly go wrong? Now, another thing the owner reported was a low hum on audio. You can actually hear the whining caps on this monitor. I'll go into the... Yeah, I can hear a bit of a... I can hear a bit of a hum, but honestly nothing worse than I get in normal circumstances using my own stuff. What I might do later on is revise some of the grounding. Well, not so much on this end of the cable, but in the SCART cable itself there's a few missing grounds there, and we'll just generally check the grounding on the board, maybe reroute some of these cables, because yeah, some of it's not ideal. So we reset the repeaters menu there and we lost the video signal completely. It's a bit strange. Oh, wow, hang on. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh God, oh man. Oh God. You know what I think this might be? Is actually this cable here. This is the decoding address wire, which goes to 74LS138. And it's just fell off. Oh, bugger. Right, so this wire here is supposed to go to pin 9. Well, that's the one it was hanging on to, and it's just fell off. It's also falling off at this end, and it's just fallen off at the other end. So I think if we reattach that properly, we might actually get somewhere. Looks better. Plug that back in here, and that grips solidly onto that connector now. Much better. Alright, this one that's flopping around is just a ground. I can't remember what bloody pin it goes to, but I don't think it's really important. Right, so let's try that again. Did we get anything at all? Well, this is interesting. Right, so I've just reflowed the CPU and Antix sockets, and now I get just this buzzing noise, so that's brilliant. So I can see some new sockets coming here. Oh God! Ah, there we go. Forgot to plug a wire in. Oh, it's still gone off. Bastard! Right, so I had this machine apart completely off camera after I hooked up the audio on the monitor jack. Just coincidentally things went completely to hell, so I took the repeaters out just to simplify things, to get the machine back as close to stock as it was reasonably possible to do. Repeaters wasn't the issue. This wire's soldered on properly now, so I did suspect VBXE for a moment, and so I tried this one, which is one of my spares. But unfortunately this one doesn't work at all. It's brand new. It's got the different connector on the back there. The revised, it's got male pins on it now, so I'll put that in this machine, and it doesn't even, the machine doesn't even boot. There's no lights come on or anything. So it looks like I've got another dead VBXE. So that might be a potential RMA. I don't know if I can send that back to Retro Lemon for quickness or what. I'm going to test it in another machine anyway that's known to work. But I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't work in this machine, because this one works in this machine. But anyway, the main issue with this one turned out to be the antic socket underneath the VBXE adapter. But I took a macro photo of it. It's got no socket frame on it, and pins 1 and 40, possibly 20 and 21 as well, were higher than the rest. There's probably an inevitable risk when you've got no socket frame, you've just got the actual pins in the board. That's what was preventing the antic adapter from sitting properly in the socket. Therefore we had lots of intermittent connections. So I heated up the legs that were high, pushed them down into the socket, put the adapter back in. Still didn't work until I realised I had to put about £2,000 per square inch of pressure on the adapter to get it to sit right in the socket, and then it worked. And then the next thing that happened is that the RGB control failed again, and that was at this end of the video cable, I found out, because these, well, that brings me to my next point actually. Right, there's a few significant problems here. Aside from the fact that this wire fell off at that end earlier on, and we had the same problem here where the connector on the leg here, which is now nice and firm since I replaced the wire, and the connector was just basically falling off. We've still got a couple of them here. This one, so loose, I mean, it just literally takes no pressure to bring that off at all. There's no friction, it's just sort of sitting there, flapping about. Same with this one. And I mean, that's the master clock for the whole system as well. It's absolutely useless. There's an extra ground here as well that's supposed to go on pin 4. That's so loose it won't stay on. It's just junk. Whereas these two, well, that one's okay, that one's sort of okay, but I don't know what. I've had a look at these connectors. They look like normal DuPont crimp connectors, but they're total crap. So that's no good. And also, I would point out, you can get 4-way, 3-way and 5-way housings, DuPont housings. I'll show you if you don't believe me. They're very cheap. Buy them in bulk from China. I think that's there's the 5-way one. So there you go, 5-way housing. Much better. This is actually 5 single-way DuPont housings taped together with electrician tape.
Right? Wrong.
I mean, come on. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to replace these with 4-way housings. If you have a 4-way housing on these two here, you've got the combined friction of however many connectors are actually present holding the thing in. Whereas if you've got one loose one here, it's just going to fall off. Yeah, and VBXE does not need a current limiting resistor on RGB blanking control. Don't try and use it with a stock Apple IIGS video cable, because it's not going to work. But other than that, I think it's more or less there. Just a shame about this VBXE. I'm dying to know. I'm stone dead. Oh God. So one thing I do want to test anyway is cartridges, because the owner said that he had a bit of bother with cartridges. There's actually a broken tab on the back here, which is going to cause problems with the cartridges that need the cover to be sprung open when you put them in. But never mind, I'm not quite sure how I'll fix that. But I think it should work now. Oh no, not quite. Things are just a little bit wibbly wobbly, and I think it's partly because of this stack of sockets at the back, so I'm going to have to do a bit of reconstruction on this thing. Come on, come on, come on. Right, it's booted. Ugh. Right, yet another problem with this machine. Some stability issues, partly caused by, you need 4 stacked sockets. I think it's 4 or 5, plus the one on the motherboard, to get this thing to the right height. It was actually bumping off the top of the casing at the back, and that was part of the reason that the thing wouldn't boot up properly. Right, so, and it looks like the rest of the stability issues are caused by these crappy connectors on the front here. So I'll replace them when I'm done. I just wanted to just demo a couple of things running if I can get the thing to work well enough. So there we go. So just quickly before it crashes again. Yeah, this is an older version of the Side 3 loader that had a lot of code in RAM. Now, of course, the code in ROM isn't going to be accelerated. We're running at 20 megahertz here with the repeaters, and it's running very nicely. So that's a 288 file names. That reads and sorts itself into alphabetical order very, very quickly indeed, because I think the I/O code's sitting in RAM. Sadly, that's not true of the later version that I'm working on at the moment, but you can't have everything. But we've got some I/O errors here, so not everything is ideal. So we've got some transfer errors, because I get the occasional bit of garbage in the directory. Is that because Side 3 doesn't like this particular machine, hasn't had the 74 F08 mod, and quite a lot of machines need that modification in place of 74 LS08 before Side 3 will even work at all, for reasons unknown. But I don't know if that's the problem here, or it's having an issue with the fact it's got VBXE and Repeatus in the machine together, plus this device. I don't know. The idea that Repeatus will only encounter issues when Ultimate 1 megabytes in the machine with it is just complete bunkum. We do have that audio buzz, which you can probably hear actually, and I think that's a grounding issue, and I'm hoping that when I refit this cable a little bit, because there's a lot of missing grounds. There's so many missing grounds on this cable that on the OSD here, that should be coloured in, that SCART cable, so it's not even managing to trigger the cable detect on the display. So the cable needs fixed. All this wiring needs to be redone. This cable's got new mylar, and the power light is intermittently working when I push on it. So I'll have to fix that as well. But anyway, we've got working VBXE video over SCART, and things are generally working reasonably well. And at the end of it, I've got a dead VBXE. Fantastic. So basically, currently I'm running at a net loss. I've had to actually take the keyboard out of the machine because it kept moving this cable and making the whole thing crash. I'll call it a day here, and thank you for watching, and thank you again, as always, to my supporters on Patreon. There's now a coffee link as well in the descriptions of the videos, as well as the Patreon link and the PayPal link. So if you want to buy me a coffee, you can do, or maybe something stronger. So with that, I'll leave you for now and see you in the next video. So bye bye for now.